Futures now, old man.
What it do? New year, new you. This is Future First Podcast, where we are helping you win today with a future first mindset. I'm your host, JMac, here with my host, Jose. What's going on, dude?
What's up, JMac? I'm good, man. How about you? How you been? New Year's? How'd it go?
Man, new year, new you. Like we said, we are a new us here on Player Profiler. If you're watching us on the network there, welcome in. We are over here trying to grow our audience and welcome in.
Yeah, I mean, this is a hard launch of sorts, for the kids that are up on those type of terminology. Yeah, it's awesome to be, being hosted here on this vast network of awesome fantasy and dynasty content. We hope you can find some time to check us out. If it's the first time you're just randomly clicking on the off season, maybe hopefully you'll stick with us. Hopefully we'll do some good stuff that you find entertaining and helpful. And you want to keep listening and checking us out and seeing what we're doing over here.
Yeah, and if you guys like us, we are, we call ourselves Dynasty Forward Content. We are really trying to focus on Dynasty here, but we don't want to keep ourselves, pigeonholed into just that. So we expand into best ball, keeper leagues, redraft, all the above, but with the focus mainly here on Dynasty as we're getting into today. But hey, welcome in. And if this is your first time here, catching us on Player Profiler Network, you can catch us over at Future First Pod on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on Spotify, Apple Pods. Rate the show over there. Drop us a comment. We love engaging with all of you. And shout out to Fox as always, who's been helping us with our graphics. You can follow her on X at bfoxworth07. Hey man, we just finished up Sunday Night Football here. Looks like the Steelers are going to the playoffs. How do you feel about
Yeah,
old man grandpa Aaron Rodgers getting in?
yeah. I mean, it kind of felt like whichever team. This is kind of like the Carolina Panthers, Bucks. Kind of like they're not looking very good. I mean, they do. Steelers have that defense that can turn on any moment and shut down any team. So there's still somebody to be reckoned with. They're going to have a home field advantage for at least one game. So I mean, the game got really good there at the end. We were watching, kind of following along right before we got ready to record. I mean, it was kind of a typical divisional rival game. And then the last like 8 minutes, they scored like 20 something points between the two of them, kind of just back and forth, back and forth. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think I have hopes for Rodgers with the Steelers here in the playoffs, but it was a fun game as a no rooting interest party.
Yeah, yeah. Sadly, I didn't get to watch too much, but I'll go back and watch a little bit. I did get to watch a lot of football today, though, in terms of the rest of the playoff games here. Yeah, man. I'm still real sad about the 49ers losing last night to the Seahawks. And for what that means for me, for the rest of you who are new here, I have a bet with a friend who's actually appearing on today's show. Surprise, Jose. That the Seahawks or the Niners, whoever wins the division, the loser has to do a polar plunge. So I'm going to be doing a polar plunge.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was kind of a beatdown. I mean, the 49ers coming in looking like super hot on offense, and man, they could not do absolutely nothing. Every time it seemed like anybody on the 49ers caught a pass, somebody was just there to light them up. It was brutal. It was, they were talking about the Legion of Boom when starting the game, in the Seahawks, in the locker room, they call themselves something else. I can't remember what they said, but they were playing like the Legion of Boom there. They were really lighting some guys up. And now the entire road through the NFC goes through Seahawks home field advantage. That's a big advantage for them. And if that defense continues to play that way, it's going to be hard for them to lose as long as Darnold doesn't give the game away. So, yeah, man. I mean, I think that's enough NFL. I can't wait for all my surprises. If as we've been saying, if you're new here, we were in a fantasy championship final last week, obviously, and I got Derrick Henry. Obviously, Derrick Henry couldn't save any points for this week or anything. He completely ran me over. I started Josh Jacobs. And, it was just a complete mauling, I think, between Derrick Henry and Brock Purdy, right? They scored pretty much my entire team's points. So it wasn't really close at any point. So JMac's got a few, things up his sleeve for me here. Got to be gracious in wins and, be a good, not be a sore loser. So take it away, JMac.
Let's do it, man. We're going to talk about some landing spots and free agencies today. But before that, Jose is known as Gritty on Grave on Sleeper, but today we're gonna do a little Dougie on Grave. What's up, guys? Here we are in the quick hit, ready for me to flex on my man Jose, getting into some congratulations. I got filters. I got lots of fun stuff for you guys today. Let's see if we can get these in here. Hey! I won the Toe Clan Keeper League. It's been a lot of fun. It was a good matchup. Again, like you said, Derrick Henry and Brock Purdy doing the heavy lifting here. But that's not all, Jose. For the quick hit here today, I invited in some of our league mates to come in and do a little dunking of themselves. So, like we said, Wookie coming in, making the first appearance here.
Yo, Jose. Heard last weekend wasn't kind to you. Thought I'd hop on and, pour one out for you. Hey, good thing you're married. The way Gibbs and Jacobs ghosted you in the championship, what can I say? Better luck next year.
Gibbs ghosted me so bad he wasn't even on my team. That's how bad he ghosted me. No, but Jacobs, we highlighted it, right? The week before, I was like, Jacobs was Henry. That was going to be a big matchup. And, Jacobs didn't even get 1 point, and then Derrick Henry got all the points. So, hard to win there. But, yeah man, I'll take my lumps.
What did Josh Jacobs have? Like 0.8 points, something like that?
Yeah, I think it was like half a point. I think it was like 0.55 or something. Yeah, it was atrocious. It was bad.
It was real bad. Okay, we're not letting you off that easy, though. We had Jake, the legendary Jake, coming in here hot.
Jose, buddy, let's talk about choices. You made it all the way to the championship. The moment was yours. If only you didn't decline that trade. The trade I'm talking about, a trade from JMac, a trade that included King Henry. You said you believed in King Henry. You felt it in your heart. But belief without commitment is just vibes. My friend, vibes don't win championships. Because while you were overthinking, JMac was over there upgrading his fleet. Another yacht, another mansion, another championship. The man didn't just win the championship, he diversified his assets. And Jose, I hate to say it, but just like black polos on Jason, losing in the championship game fits you perfectly. It's poetic, really. Tragic, Shakespearean. The trade was the turning point where you could have went to the championship and brought it home, or you fell short and lost. So take this L with grace, reflect, grow, and next season when someone offers you King Henry, you accept the deal. Because JMac leaned in, and now he's sailing off into the sunset.
Do you remember that trade?
Yeah, I remember. It was right before the playoffs, but I think if I made that trade, I don't even make the playoffs. So
I don't think so either. Yeah.
But obviously looking back on it, who wouldn't have loved to have Derrick Henry during that? He was actually, I think the week right before the playoffs, he was kind of bad, but he was dominant in the playoffs all throughout. He showed up. So I know he won a lot of people, a lot of championships. He won me a few. So that was the only, cover up my wounds a little bit. He helped me win some other leagues, but not this one, man. He
did.
He pummeled me. He
Yeah,
gave it to
man,
me.
he did. He gave it to you, and actually, he wanted to step in and say some words also. So let's hear from Derrick Henry here. Hey, yo, Jose. Derrick Henry here. Sorry I had to go drop 50 on you like that in the finals here, the keeper league. You know, JMac offered you that trade. Probably should have took it. Had a chance to get the king on the squad. Sorry, man. I had to do it. I heard JMac's the GOAT though, so congratulations, JMac. Hey, you
Thanks,
earned
Derek.
this one. We'll see you out there next year. Hey, at least I got you 50 points in your other league. Oh no, no, he didn't win that one. Oh, my bad. All right, cut. Hey man, the king himself who wanted to make an appearance on Future First.
Hey man, that's how big this podcast is. We're on Player Profiler now, the network. Now we got Derrick Henry making live cameos directly after just being eliminated from the playoffs. Like that's how big things are around here. We do it big like the King does in the championship.
That's it. All right, man. Just for one more. I promise that won't be the last one, guys. But all right, you ready to get into some dynasty content here?
Yes, sir.
All right, but first, we're gonna be back with you guys to talk about some landing spots right after this. All right, everyone, time to get into the meat of the episode here. We're going to be talking about a free agency today, and we wanted to kind of get a head start here in terms of which teams and which players, specifically running backs of the nature, are going to be looking for a new home or a new player. And in this segment here, we're going to be talking about the landing spots. So we kind of divided these up into 4 different tiers. We have the people who are desperate. They got no contracts, no talent, looking for extension. We got the tier 2, which are those who are in the market. There's no contracts on deck. Maybe they have some talent on there, but nothing locked up for sure. And then we have some wild cards, which have no contracts, but they do have either talented rookies or players that are kind of just up in the air. We don't really know what to do with. And then there's the tier 4 who are comfortable but not settled. They have some contracts locked in, but out of depth is just going to be a possibility here. So the next segment where we'll get into which free agents are going to be looking for homes. We're going to try and define where those homes could be here. So let's dive into it here in the first tier of them, which are our desperate teams, who we're labeling as the Commanders and the Chiefs. So Jose, man, which one of these ones seem more desperate to you?
I think probably the Chiefs, just based on what their offense was like, right? Like the kind of big downturn that they had. They weren't getting much from their running back basically at all. Pacheco came back and he just doesn't seem like he's going to be that player like he was for that run. Kareem Hunt, he was, whatever, the veteran fill-in. But yeah, man, I mean, they have Brashard Smith. It doesn't look like he's looking to be any sort of workhorse, mainly passing down. So they don't really have a running back on the roster going into next year unless they extend one of these guys or something. So they're definitely going to be heavy in the market with a Mahomes who's probably going to be, if he starts the year, right, we're not sure what the timetable looks like maybe, but if he starts the year, he's definitely not going to be nearly as mobile. You're going to need a run game. You're going to need to help that defense also to, kind of grind some games. And it's just the most kind of wishful thinking of one of these top guys that we'll talk in the next segment to land on because, it's the Chiefs. That Chiefs offense can score a lot of points. We've seen what they can do. So for me, I think it's the Chiefs out of between them and the Commanders.
Yeah, I think I'd agree, but I don't know, man. The Chiefs are just one of those teams that just seem to put it together some way, somehow. Like, honestly, it wouldn't shock me if they re-sign or extend Kareem Hunt over there to some sort of deal and they just kind of ride him into 2026 until they can, get healthy and figure it out. But the Commanders are pretty desperate, man. I mean, they're rolling with Chris Rodriguez, Jeremy McNichols, who are both set to be free agents here. And then they got the most infamous bill We're talking about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who's on a rookie deal, who had so much hype entering this season here for 2025 and really just kind of failed to deliver on that hype. I mean, he showed up somewhat here in, the late half of the playoff season here and going into what is the NFL playoffs. It's hard to imagine him being a featured back in that offense. He just hasn't been the guy that can really grind those downs. Like, I could see him being maybe a change of pace, getting somebody else, some fresh blood in there too, to kind of make it happen. But man, I mean, the Washington Commanders in general are just desperate. Like, they need some new blood in there. I mean, Austin Eckler is technically under contract through 2026, but they have a potential out next year at 1.6 million dead cap, which seems really likely considering he blew his Achilles here at like age 31, 32. It's hard to imagine him being on the team next year. And I don't know, Chris Rodriguez, Jeremy McNichols, maybe they make the roster, but this just feels like a prime landing spot for any one of these guys that we talked about in this next segment here. So to me, the Commanders need someone. I mean, I feel like the Chiefs can kind of get it done over there with whatever Andy Reid is cooking up. And if Patrick Mahomes is healthy to start the season, I know he won't be 100%, but it doesn't really matter. You can put anybody in the wide receiver slot and he's going to sling it to them and get the ball downfield.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be too surprising to see them. I mean, I don't think Kareem Hunt, probably if he's not with the Chiefs, he's probably just retiring, I would imagine. And Isaiah Pacheco, I doubt, is commanding any sort of big contract out there on the market. So it wouldn't be surprising for them to kind of maybe just re-sign them and try to kind of re-roll that. But yeah, with the Commanders, I mean, their entire offense besides Jaden Daniels is kind of on the older side. They did sign Terry McLaurin, but Debo's a free agent. We'll get into wide receivers later in the offseason, but everything around Jaden Daniels needs to be upgraded in a big way. I could see them kind of maybe going like the Texans did with Joe Mixon, kind of like a vet or an older guy that's been proven, just to have like a safety blanket, a secure guy for the running game. There's a few of those guys, in the free agency. So I could see them being heavy players there. And if not, definitely drafting again another running back, because it's Bill and Eckler. Even if they re-sign one of these guys, none of them, blew them away down the stretch here. Chris Rodriguez continued to miss time when he had his chance. Bill looked pretty okay when Chris Rodriguez missed, especially in these last few weeks, but nothing, he did also have like 8 games during the season where they were trying to make him the guy and he wasn't able to stand above anybody. So, and pretty much lost his job to Chris Rodriguez once, that kind of happened. So yeah, I think they're brilliantly interesting. I mean, if Daniels can be healthy and that offense can kind of get going, it'll definitely be a pretty awesome landing spot if one of these kind of bigger names can land there. But it's a lot up in the air, I think, for the Commanders going into next season.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens there. So, all right, let's move out of these desperate teams and let's get into a team that we feel like is in the market for a running back here, and that's the Cowboys, really. I mean, they have Javonte Williams, who showed out really well this year, who was on the 1-year deal. Malik Davis and Miles Sanders also were on 1-year deals, but I mean, they were really non-factors. It was really Javonte or bust for the Cowboys here. And I mean, they have Phil Maffa and Jaden Blue, who are on rookie deals, but haven't really made a bunch of noise at all this season. I know Maffa has been hurt and on IR, but Jaden Blue has been a non-factor, and he's been healthy from the get-go. And with even as much hype as he had coming in this offseason, it's really been Javonte's backfield, which has been great for fantasy. I really do see Javonte getting an extension here, and maybe that's how the Cowboys kind of fill that hole that they have for the running back needs. But I don't know, man. Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones. Who knows, bro? Javonte could end up on the Panthers next year or something, and we might be looking at somebody new here. You tell me, as a resident Cowboys fan.
Yeah, I mean, with how many holes they have on the defense besides the defensive line, honestly, Javonte might have played himself out of being able to be re-signed by the Cowboys, at least with what they might be willing to pay. I could see another team that just is willing to offer him those extra couple million or guaranteed or just on top coming over and, just taking him. I mean, Javonte had his 1 year prove it deal and it worked out perfectly for him. I mean, I'm sure he's trying to maximize his contract because with his injury history and everything, like who knows what contract may be down the line. So I'm sure he's not really looking to take any sort of deal, or anything, or make it easy for the Cowboys. I'm sure he's trying to sign as many years, maximize like most players are. But I think he's in a unique situation where when these guys, go for their 1 year prove it deals and they actually show out, they got to cash in because who knows when that Brinks truck might be coming by again. So I don't know if he's going to be able to be re-signed by the Cowboys. I think wherever he goes, you're hoping that they saw his ability to withstand being a workhorse for pretty much the entire season there. In the last couple games, he was a little banged up. I'm not so sure if it was in important games, if it was a playoff push that he might have not been able to come back and play more. The injuries weren't like, broken clavicles or like very serious. It seemed like stingers and kind of just banged up stuff that, the Cowboys haven't been playing it for anything for about like 4 weeks. And then that's kind of when Javonte started kind of missing time. So I'm not so sure that it was injuries, maybe just, like, why force myself coming off a contract, a big year? I've already proven that I can do what I can do. Why throw myself in there and maybe potentially get a real serious injury that could, hurt my paycheck going forward? I wouldn't be too surprised. That would just be smart on his part. But I mean, they let the Blue play this week, and he looked pretty good. I mean, it was the Giants defense who's not horrible, and he looked pretty good. I was really surprised how often he was just inactive, just healthy scratch after healthy scratch for a rookie, especially when you had like 4 or 5 games where you weren't playing for anything. It didn't really make sense. It's the type of thing that the Cowboys do. It's like, why not see what you have in Blue? So then at least you have a better idea going into next offseason if he's going to play any sort of role in his second year, if he's just going to continue to be a backup guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if, one of the lower tier guys we talk about ends up on the Cowboys and it's some nasty committee until they realize one of them is better than the other. But yeah, I mean, I think Javonte has probably pretty much played himself out of a contract there in Dallas, I think.
Jerry Jones is that cheap, huh?
And there's just too many holes to fill in other places, I think. Like they're going to spend – if they're going to spend, I feel like it's just the defense has to be the priority.
Okay. All right, for funsies, over under. Javonte gets $5.5 million next year.
I want to say
with
over.
anybody. Over. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's gonna get a nice bag. I think he's gonna be one of the top contracts besides a couple of the other guys we're gonna talk about here.
All right, I love it. All right, let's move into the next tier here. We got quite a few teams in tier 3, which are the wild cards. No contracts on deck, but we have some talented rookie deals or players on rookie deals. The Jets being the first of these guys. Breece Hall set to be a free agent, or is he? We'll talk about that, I guess. But they have Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis on year 2 of their rookie deals. Yeah, I don't know. I'm in the camp of Breece Hall is going to get franchise tagged, and he's going to be a Jet, and he's on the Saquon Barkley trajectory where he's just set in his jail cell and, waiting to get freed so he can go to, I don't know. You pick him. Who could he go to in division? The Bills? There you go. He's going to go to the Bills in 2 years and play for them. I don't know. That's how I see it going down. But and then it's a prime landing spot, I guess, for Breece Hall.
Yeah, no, I'm not so sure that they will, but who knows? The Jets are another organization, kind of like the Cowboys, where they don't always do what makes sense. I don't know what they're doing. Their head coach, how many different who's going to be the quarterback. There's so many different things that going on there that, I think Breece Hall, letting go of Breece Hall, if you didn't trade him, franchise tagging him, playing all that money, I don't really see the point of it, right? Like, I feel like they have so many other holes that they need to be working on. So, I don't know, in terms of the Jets as a team, like going into next year, if Breece Hall leaves, I think that would be one of those like purgatories where you're hoping none of the guys we're going to talk about lands there. So because with Braylon Allen, who has demonstrated he's a pretty decent running back, it would just be muddied, and you don't think that offense is going to be doing much at all. So you're kind of hoping Breece Hall leaves and that nobody of importance goes there, and you kind of just forget the Jets running back room exists at this point.
Yeah. especially if Aaron Glenn is, the coach for future years, right? I mean, we already saw how bad it could be this year with the split committee. So, yeah, I agree. If anyone goes there, we kind of check out that backfield. All right, let's move on to the next one here, who are the Texans. Mixon has a potential out next year, which is more like a probable out with 2 million dead cap. Obviously, he didn't play at all this year, and the team didn't seem very enthusiastic about getting him in there to play. Chubb is going to be out next year, and I don't know, man. Woody Marks, he looks really good. He's obviously on his rookie deal. He's going to be finishing up another or a great season here for the Texans. I like Woody Marks. I don't necessarily see them needing to invest in the running back position, but they might be someone who just kind of adds some depth here, and hopefully they focus something on offensive line and getting that those guys up front really bolstered.
Yeah, I mean, he seemed to be their kind of bell cow. He didn't catch a ton of passes, which is a little concerning. If he's not getting touchdowns, then he's going to have a pretty low floor. I mean, it looked like the Texans towards the end of the season there were kind of bringing it out on offense because it was pretty anemic for most of the year. So you hope that CJ Stroud takes that step forward, and yeah, I think overall you hope it is Woody Marks. He does kind of turn into that late round darling, Chase Brown, Kyron Williams type of guy that was drafted by this regime. They wanted him there, and then he kind of just takes a role. And if anybody goes there, you hope it's kind of depth filler, like Chubb type of, like either older guys or real low money, kind of just to fill in the running back room, and that they don't draft anybody else. He's kind of one of those landmines that in Dynasty, how much is a Woody Marks, share cost right now? Maybe you can get in early. It's that type of thing, that type of gamble. We've been talking about it all season where Javonte Williams, these sorts of guys that you plugged into a flex or helped you in a running back spot. How much did they cost in the offseason, right? It was not, the CMC, Hampton, Genty, or, Gibbs type of price, but they were impactful, and they can be, he could be that guy next year. We could be looking at like, hey, like, a solid RB2, nothing crazy, nothing, wild. If the touchdowns go his way, maybe a solid RB2. And, is he a second worth of right now? Maybe a third, a couple thirds, like what, so you just be hoping and praying the whole time that, he doesn't get landmined and somebody of note lands there.
Yeah, it feels inevitable, but I mean, maybe they're happy with him, and they just, like I said, they just roll with him and try to fill other holes that they got on the team. Okay, these next three teams, I wasn't really sure if they fit this wild card role where they have no contracts but talented rookie. But it's the Titans, the Cardinals, and the Bears. I did put them in here because there are potential outs. The Titans have an out on Pollard with 2 million dead cap. The Cardinals have an out on James Conner with 2.25 million dead cap, and the Bears have an out on Swift next year with 1.3 million dead cap. And then obviously you have Spears in tow for the Titans, Trey Benson in tow on year 2 of his rookie deal for the Cardinals, and Monangai on his rookie deal, who's actually showed up pretty well this year. And we've talked about him quite a bit here, believing in him going into the future. But I guess if any one of these three, which seems the most likely that they're going to take the out on their RB1 or 1A, if you want to call it?
I mean, I think just in terms of like overall play and how things have gone, I think it's probably Pollard, right? Like he's been pretty uninspiring this whole season, but maybe they, it's always one of those things where you look at fantasy scores, you see how that happened, and it might be just a complete 180 of how the teams feel about it. Maybe Pollard's a great locker room guy. They don't owe him this ton of money. They like, maybe whatever, there's so many things, but in terms of how I feel about it, I think Pollard would make the most sense. Connor just seems like a guy that the Cardinals love, and they're going to give him maybe a shot to come back off injury, like cutting him after a massive injury. I don't know. Maybe will they do that to Connor? Who knows what they got going on, but I think he makes the most sense. And then from what I want to see for the NFL, I hope they move on from Swift and Monangai becomes the main guy there, and then they bring somebody else to kind of play second fiddle to him, just because I do think Monangai kind of has that juice that he could be a pretty relevant fantasy player. even he has been even with Swift. So yeah, I think the Titans would be my shout to get rid of their RB1.
Yeah, that does feel likely, especially since we already know there's a coaching change coming with the Titans too. So, with a head coach change, maybe there's a new offensive philosophy in town that could, put Pollard on the curb, which would free up another free agent, which we don't really have in the next segment, Tony Pollard to talk about there. But I could see the Cardinals happening too. I mean, with James Conner, he's on the end of his trajectory for the apex of the age for a running back. So he's coming off a gruesome injury too. They do have Trey Benson, who's a talented rookie, and who knows, man, like we could see a coaching change in Arizona too. It feels likely at this point. He's, the most losing coach in Arizona in most recent history. So yeah, like I said, these guys are wild cards for a reason here, and it's you never know what's going to happen. All right, so the next tier here we have as comfortable but not settled. They have some contracts locked in, but out of depth is probable, if not possible. And the first one on here is the Vikings, who have Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason under contract through 2026. But Aaron Jones has shown that he can't really stay healthy for a full season, and Jordan Mason has shown that he can't really be the guy for a full season. So it feels like they want to add someone here. I mean, they've been trying for a long time. Jordan Mason was really the guy to kind of plug that hole for them. But who knows, man? I mean, they've had offensive struggles that, weren't due to the running back position themselves. So maybe they're hoping that Jordan Mason can be that guy. But how do you see this backfield shaking out? Do you think that they add some depth here in the offseason?
Yeah, you could see them maybe add a guy just because of Aaron Jones, and even Mason himself was injured a bit during the season. So just a depth guy, but I think they're kind of stuck in with the contracts they gave those guys. I think Mason got a decent, and so did Aaron Jones. Like they got decent money, so I think they're kind of just going to be stuck running it back and probably not being super successful unless the guys stay healthy.
Okay. Yeah, no, I see it kind of similarly. The next team we have on here is the Saints. They have Kamara, Kendra Miller, and Audric Estime under contract through 2026. It doesn't feel likely that they really add anybody, considering they have all those guys. But, I mean, those first two guys have had trouble staying healthy pretty much their whole careers. We have Kamara and Kendra Miller here. Audric Estime has kind of come on a little bit. And honestly, like this whole offense is kind of in an upward trajectory here. I don't think anyone would have guessed Tyler Shuck was going to steal the quarterback job here for the future, but that's clearly a topic of debate here, which I think will be a hot spot for the offseason here. And then obviously they still have Devin Neal on a rookie deal. Do you think there is any possibility the Saints look to add any depth to this team here?
No, I don't think so. And honestly, I wonder how much Kamara was really injured. Like, what did they have to play for weeks? Like, and then there was Shuck, and who knew what Shuck was going to be? Like, Kamara maybe was just saving what he has left on his career, and who knows what Kamara could have been with Shuck, who would look he looked good. He made that offense play well, so he could be an interesting kind of vet that a lot of people are discounting to kind of buy in cheaply. Again, like he could maybe plug in some holes if he can get back to that Kamara timeshare. The wide receiver corps there at in New Orleans is still one of the worst besides Chris Olave. So, it could be interesting. I don't see, just because they have so many guys already on their contract and a rookie they drafted last year, what would make sense unless they kind of just cut Kendrick Miller, who's never been able to stay healthy, and then Estime, who just got there. So, I think it's Kamara's backfield probably. None of the rookies have really been able to take him off the field when he's healthy. So I think it just kind of continues that way unless Kamara retires, which could be a pretty big thing. But it didn't seem like he was done when he was talking about it. But
he was talking about it, though.
Exactly.
That's the scary part. All right, cool. Well, that's all we got for what we think are the most probable landing spots here. After this break, we'll get into the running back free agents. All right, welcome back. We are here to talk about some running back free agents. In the previous segment here, we were talking about the landing spots of where these free agents that we're talking about now could potentially go. And again, we broke them down similarly into tiers, which I guess aren't the most likely to move or most likely to add as they were in the other segment, but they are what we feel as the most fantasy impactful running backs going into the free agent market here. So in tier 1, these are the top of the free agent running back market if they make it out of their current teams, and all could be given extensions or tagged. As mentioned earlier, if they make it to the free agent market, the RB class becomes very interesting, because honestly, that feels like one of the strengths here that we have for the draft class is some elite running backs coming in here. So, but before we start talking about the draft class, let's get into these free agents here. Breece Hall, I think, is probably headlining the free agent market. We've seen him be really good before. He has elite flashes before the ACL tear. He's also been really good for the Jets when the Jets have given him the opportunity to be good. But now we're kind of stuck in this in-between phase of, is he still elite, or is he, is he, like he said, like, is he on that Saquon trajectory? Does he still have the elite ability, or has he just been stuck on a horrible offense and a team? I guess, what camp do you land in here?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's still elite. I think he's shown flashes. I mean, even, just to end the season, he had, what, a 60-yard, home run play where you saw him make a great play and score a long touchdown. In one play does not make, a career, but I think you've seen it enough. And before the ACL tear and somewhat after the ACL tear, when the Jets were able to have some sort of competent offense. So I kind of just want to lay it all at the feet of the Jets organization and just how bad that team has been, that he still has that elite level in him. So, I mean, he's one of those that we're really hoping, like we've been talking about, that he makes it out, right? Like, in terms of the landing spots, like bury him as the top spot with who we think is the top open, put him on Kansas City and your wheels up. But that does beg the question of, if you think something like that could happen, you got to make that gamble before, right? Because if he goes to free agency and then signs like a 3-year, nice contract with a good team, whether it's the Chiefs or the Commanders or one of these other teams, Houston, or, if he just gets a nice contract, that value is going to spike. So if you're, I mean, it's hard to read those tea leaves. It's just a pure gamble that they don't tag him unless, they tag him early in the offseason, which I don't think is very common. So in these kind of quiet months of dynasty of, January, February, March, if there's a time to buy maybe low on Breece Hall and you think he's going to escape his prison, then, it's the time to do it before free agency. Because once the free agency frenzy hits and he signs a big contract, like, you're going to be very hard pressed to get him at any reasonable price.
Yeah, especially if he goes to the Chiefs. I mean, it's like the title says, that would be insane. I mean, we already had rumors of it happening, and before the trade deadline of 2025, we were talking about, what if Breece Hall went to the Chiefs? I think the Chiefs even offered like a 4th-round pick for him, but the Jets wanted more than that. And yeah, that's what makes me think, is like, why wouldn't they trade Breece unless they had plans of keeping him on the squad? And I don't think there's any hope that they get a contract done with him. I think Breece Hall is done with the Jets. It's been very clear that he is not happy about his situation. So I don't really see him being a Jet unless they tag him. And if the Jets are similar minded, like, I don't know, man. Like this, yeah, I don't know. Clearly,
Yeah,
I'm not an NFL executive here, though.
Yeah, I think the whole thing, and that's why they wanted more than a 4th, is I think a 4th is the highest compensatory pick you can get. It was something where they were like, why trade for the Chiefs pick, who at that time was seeming like it was going to be a high pick, instead of just getting a comp pick, which they would get if Breece left and signed a decent deal. That's what I heard was like the thought process behind it. Like, there's no reason, might as well just get the comp pick. But it ended up not working out that way. So
Yeah.
but yeah, man, I mean, it'll be really interesting. He'll be the first kind of big domino, and hopefully we get word on that, pretty quickly into the offseason, because it'll be a fun time if he can make it to free agency.
That'll be interesting. He'll be the darling of the ball for sure. We do have another big name here, though, Travis Etienne, who is entering He's on his 4th year of his deal, and he's coming out into free agency here, demonstrating his ability to be the workhorse and to have good production when featured in the offense. Does most of his damage in the passing offense and catching the ball and running with it, which I've been a big proponent of here on this podcast. We love Travis Etienne and what he can do. Obviously, too, I mean, you have the Jags who drafted Bashal Tutin to seemingly be the, what would you call it? The guy who takes over for Travis Etienne. I don't know. What do you think about Travis Etienne?
Yeah, and I was going to ask you something, kind of like what you did earlier. Like, let's maybe just do it for these first couple guys, not the entire list, but let's say they all make it to free agency. What kind of contract do you think Breece Hall would get? Do you would expect him to get like in the millions? Let's not play the API and all this, like just rough, like million per year, not guaranteed, like just a rough number. What do you think?
I think Breece is getting double digits.
Dang. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that'd be interesting. I think it would be one of those dominoes where between these guys, ETN Hall and the next guy we're going to talk about, it could be one of those, oh, he signed for that. Well, I want point 0.1 more, like, like that sort of deal. I could see that happening between these kind of running backs. But yeah, I agree. I think Breece Hall could be very close or in the 9.8, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's really
In
close.
terms of ETN, yeah, I mean, they drafted, right? They traded away Tank, but they had Tootin, and they have some people they've been playing. But I think ETN is paired well with what we've seen with T-Law, especially as he's kind of grown into this back end of the season and playing very well, that it would just kind of make sense if you could get it done with ETN, keep the core together, keep the team together. And he seems to work in their offense. They're finally getting going in the new coach's offense. So I think for him, career wise, I think it would make the most sense. The Jags look like they're on the trajectory up, but with a running back, it's like you get one time to make a big contract. I understand when guys just bolt to another much worse situation because you got to secure that bag and your family's future. So I just think career wise it would make sense for him to stay there. He seems like he is fitting in. And in terms of his, I could see his being, if we're saying Breece is from like the 9 to 10 to 11, I could see him being just slotting right under that, like 8.5 to maybe 9 million, depending on how badly the team needs him, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Travis Etienne is just a step behind Breece Hall in terms of contract. Yeah, man, it just feels like that's kind of destined for Travis Etienne. I mean, he's definitely not Cohen's guy, right? He drafted Tootin to be the guy that he wanted. And obviously, like you said, they got rid of Tank Bigsby here early in the 2025 season. And maybe that's the reason why Travis Etienne has been getting the workload he's been getting, as to showcase him, to try and do him right and let him get his contract and wherever he goes next year. But it would, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it would be a smart move by the Jags to let Travis Etienne walk and not sign him. But like we said, man, I mean, the market's going to determine really where Etienne goes unless he wants to take a team-friendly deal and stay with T-Law, who, I think they were in college together, so they've really been playing most of their professional careers together. So
Yeah.
maybe it makes sense.
One thing about Etienne that it's kind of also going to play against him is he's going to be 27 by the time free agency hits, which is pretty late for a guy going in. I mean, it's not super late, but there's guys that hit their rookie after the rookie contract and they're 25 or early 26. He's going to be 27 in a few weeks here, so he's going to play his entire. So you're signing him to a multi-year deal. You're talking about signing him into his 30s. So. It'll be another thing to be interesting about his contract going into it.
All right. Before we jump into the next guy, let's play a little theoreticals, right? Are you excited about Travis Etienne if he goes to one of these prime landing spots we're talking about in the Commanders, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, Texans?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are kind of the four where, like, I think those teams have not been predisposed. I don't think in the Cowboys' sense of the offense. I mean, in any of these guys' sense, the offensive coordinator or the offense is going to change very much. Like going into next year, I mean, it's Andy Reid's offense. It's the Commanders. I mean, I guess they were talking that Cliff might not survive it; they might move on. So that could be interesting. But I mean, in terms of like the theory of how these teams have operated, they've all been okay having a workhorse. And I think if Etienne can get that, and then obviously if he's the workhorse, he's going to be there for the passing game. I would be pretty excited. I mean, I think he's shown that he can do it. You're not like Brees Hall to the Chiefs level of excitement, but if for whatever reason Etienne side with the Cowboys, I think you could have a very Javonte Williams type of season, right? Not one for one players, but just in terms of his workload, the Cowboys are probably going to continue to be a high scoring offense, which gives him a lot of, there's no tush push, there's no Dak scrambling for touchdowns very much. So that's why Javonte got his. And then the Texans, I don't know. In division, I guess it's free agency, so it doesn't really matter. But the Texans have gotten a really good look at Travis Etienne multiple times. So that's one of those things that kind of happen where they're like, hey, like this guy has kind of messed us up. That he'd be a great guy to play with CJ Stroud for the next couple of years. So I would rank them like that. Obviously, Chiefs to me are always going to be number one. I think Cowboys 2. Texans 3 and Commanders 4. Just because if they do move on from things. Jeez, I cannot say that guy's the OC. There's name
Cliff
if they
Kingsbury.
if they move on from Cliff, I have no idea what that OC is going to do and what he's going to want. Like I don't know if he's going to want a rotation, and that could be kind of messy for them. Obviously, that's just going to be an NFL rumors of things that could happen. So yeah, that's how I think I'd rank those landing spots.
Yeah, Travis Etienne just feels so niche to me, and how he scores his fantasy points. Right? I mean, he feels like a Devon Achane, but like just not as efficient on the run game. So it's like I don't know. I want to be excited for Travis Etienne in another offense. I do, but it's definitely going to be landing spot dependent for me. So I'm kind of holding my breath there and hoping he stays with the Jags to kind of see it forward. But the next guy I'm hoping does leave his team is Kenneth Walker the third. He's been really good when healthy, and he's proven to be a valuable asset to his team's offense. But the fact that he struggled to stay healthy gave Charbonnet kind of some runway to opportunity. And I mean, Charbonnet looks really good this year, and he's been making it a true 50-50 split. So I guess where, if anywhere, do you think Kenneth Walker leaves the Seahawks? And if he does, where do you want to see him go?
He seems like the prime candidate who'll just kind of grab the bag wherever, and take it. I think Charbonnet, if he wants to be a lead guy, there's no way he's going to do that there with Charbonnet. I think Charbonnet has fully kind of come on and shown that he deserves to be on the field. I know at the beginning of the season, it was like, oh, the vulture stealing Charbonnet's touches. And it's very similar to another guy we're going to talk in the next tier. But I think Charbonnet has just proven that he is a good NFL running back as well. So I think if Kenneth Walker wants, to be the guy, he's going to have to leave town. And I don't know. I was really in on Kenneth Walker after his rookie season. I quickly dipped out because I cannot do, multiple injury running backs. It just drives me crazy in terms of like having those type of guys on my team. Like I need, and obviously nobody's injury prone. It's hard to say that, but I mean, there's guys that you should kind of know they're going to miss a few games, right? Like, so if he can stay healthy, I mean, I'd be excited for him on almost any offense, just because he is that exciting player that can, house any run, sometimes to his detriment in terms of his vision. Like I remember a play last night where he's running to the outside, the tight end or wide receiver is blocked, and he runs into the blocked man for a tackle. And I was just like, brother, like what, like your vision score on Madden is negative. Like what are you, sometimes his vision does not seem like the best, but he is an exciting player. So I definitely think he leaves. It just gives me the vibe of like he wants probably to be a starter and more full time. And the Seahawks, I think, would be perfectly fine running Charbonnet and, plugging somebody else in there instead of Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, he feels like a guy that goes to a team that's trying to add depth, and he feels like someone that goes for like 5.5, 6 million, like something similar to that. I don't really see him getting a ton more than that, but I don't know. Maybe we get surprised there. All right, let's move on to the next tier. We're calling tier 1.5. We have 3 guys in this tier who have shown some pretty good promise in their NFL careers here, but maybe don't have the resume to really prove that they are that guy to kind of carry the load for a team. And those 3 are Brian Robinson Jr., Tyler Algier, and Javonte Williams. Let's talk about Brian Robinson Jr. first. Do you think he'll be given the chance to be the number 1, or is he just destined to be a backup role player here?
Yeah, I think he could be an interesting guy where maybe he doesn't right off the rip, his contract and where he goes doesn't scream RB1, but I do think he's talented enough that he could be one of those ambiguous backfield backs that you want to draft in redraft towards, the later rounds and got to throw on your team because of an injury or he just plays his way to be the RB1. I think he is talented enough. I don't think he'll get the money to do so. I don't think it wouldn't be super surprising if he was the only guy that didn't get his life force sucked out of him by CMC this year. So maybe they just keep him around for next year. But I don't know if he's destined to be as bad of a backup as he was to CMC this year. I think he definitely could go somewhere and have more of a role. I think out of the 3 guys you mentioned, he's kind of the guy that was a little shakiest. Like if I redid the tiers, maybe he wouldn't be here, and I might move Javonte up into the tier 1. But we did talk a lot about Javonte. But yeah, that's how I see Brian Robinson. I think he could definitely be ambiguous backfield material that has the potential to be pretty exciting if something were to change in season.
Yeah, I mean we've seen it before with him with the Commanders, and I don't. The Commanders would be way better off if they would have kept Brian Robinson Jr. this year. But clearly they thought Bill was that guy, and we've found out he is not that guy. All right, but I am excited for this next guy, Tyler Algier. He is that guy. He's just kind of stuck behind the guy. You know what I mean? As Bajan is just truly like one of the best running backs that we've seen in the NFL in a really long time. So I don't know. He's really exciting to see where it goes, but I could also just see the Falcons re-signing him. So it'll be curious though, I guess.
Yeah, he's somebody I'm really excited about. He's somebody I've liked as a player. After his rookie season, it just kind of sucked that they took one of the best running backs in a long time as a prospect. You're going to have to sit behind him. But a lot of people kind of just saw him as a thorn to Bijan. But I see a quality running back who could be a very solid player in fantasy if he's just kind of given the opportunity, right? But it'll be interesting. I mean, it's going to be new coaching staff there, so who knows what they'll want to do. Obviously, Bijan's not going anywhere, but maybe they have a less of we want to give Bijan X amount more touches, and Algier kind of just gets in the way. No reason to pay him. So I'd be excited. He'd be a good fit in one of these landing spots like we talked about for I don't know $4 million, maybe something like that to the Cardinals, the Titans if they moved on from Pollard, like somewhere where he get to be the RB1 or the 1A instead of the 1B. I think it could be pretty interesting for fantasy.
Yeah, I agree. I really like Tyler Algier. I'm kind of keeping the finger on the pulse there and see where he goes. I actually have quite a bit of him in Dynasty also. So a guy I don't have a lot of is Javonte Williams. I had a lot of hope for him coming out of college and even through the first 2 years of the NFL with the Broncos. I was drafting him everywhere, hoping that he could be that guy that he was in college, just that violent runner. And man, he did run violently, so violently, he couldn't stay healthy. He was always hurt. What did he do? He tore his ACL in the first year here and just never really looked good after that until he got put on the Cowboys here, and he's coming off his best year, proving that he can be a workhorse running back. And he got banged up to end the year, but he's probably gonna get paid here in the future. But sounds like you don't believe it'll be with the Cowboys. So I don't know. Where do you see him fitting in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, he could be one of those guys that just goes to the highest bidder, and it wouldn't be surprising if he might even get a bigger paycheck than maybe Kenneth Walker or Travis Etienne.
I agree.
So that's kind of why I was saying maybe he belonged more in the tier 1. But of the landing spots, I mean, they're all exciting. I mean, I would love to have him back, with the Cowboys. All the landing spots he instantly is the best running back the Vikings have, I think, over Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. It's hard because they already have paid. The Bears, I think if they let go of Swift, it'd be a pretty interesting 1-2 punch of Manung guy.
That's
and
a good one.
and Javonte could save Javonte a little bit of wear and tear having Monongai there. But yeah, man, I mean, he's a really exciting player. I mean, if you have him in Dynasty before this year, it was like, oof, that might be a dead asset if you've held him. I recently traded for him in a league where I'm feeling a lot better, going into next season. Hopefully he gets a good contract in a good spot. So, he's definitely an exciting one. I think he could be, in terms of fantasy relevant, apart from Brees, the one that could land the best spot and be the most relevant, especially from what we've seen this year. And I think a prime sell candidate, if he lands that primo job with the 8-9 million tag for multiple years. I think, I don't know if that was Javante's best season ever, but I think you got very close to seeing. Like, I don't see Javante having another gear that doesn't just simply involve more touchdowns. Like, I don't think he's 1,800-yard type of rusher or something like that, right? Like, I don't really see him having another that level of season available to him. So I think he'd be a prime candidate of, if you get a nice big contract wherever it is, to be selling off Javonte for one of these younger guys coming in or something else.
Man, that's a really smart move, especially since we saw Javonte get like all the carries in Dallas, right? It's like no matter where it goes, just the way that the NFL works now, he's probably not getting that kind of workload. And if he doesn't get that workload, he's probably not going to be as fantasy relevant that he is this year. Just like you're saying, he's not going to have those 1,300-yard seasons, probably coming off his best season here. So I really like that call of selling on Javonte Williams if you can. Yeah, man, I don't know, like, are you getting a late first for him, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on how sexy the landing spot and contract is, because then you can spin, or people, you don't need to spin it for them. They spin their narrative in their own head, for dynasty values, just on their own. If it's a 3-4 year contract, upwards of 8 million, very solid running back numbers, the people will spin that in their own head, and
Yeah.
you maybe are missing out on another really good RB1 season, but I don't think much more. So I think you could definitely get a late first, or if not, maybe a little bit more, or trade him for somebody who had a down year. There's lots of ways you could spin Javonte, or just use him to tier up, right? Like, use him and package him with something and go get one of these either top end rookies coming in, or somebody, like on Amar and Hampton. Like, are people, maybe they're holding Hampton, but if you can throw whatever on top of Javonte to Amar and Hampton, maybe, something like that. Somebody who disappointed, who you still have a lot of faith in, would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I'm curious where he would go, and honestly, I think a lot that plays into what you'll get back from him will be how much he gets paid. So if he does get that higher amount that we're talking about, like 6-7 million, I think you may be able to squeeze a late first out of him, at least in terms of value. Okay, let's cruise through these next two tiers here. In tier 2, we have Rachaad White, Rico Dowdle, and Kenneth Gainwell. I guess, which of these guys are you most excited for if they do get moved?
Maybe just because of recency bias, but I feel like it's Kenneth Gainwell. Like, he's
Ooh,
looked really, really good, right? He's looked really explosive, but it's just like, can he find the same sort of role and opportunities on another team that's just a better offense? Like, that's kind of my thought, is like, is there an offense he could land on where he gets the same amount of touches, the same, volume, the same, important passing game work, but that's just a better offense than the Pittsburgh Steelers have been all season? I think that'd be pretty interesting. I mean, Rico Dowdle was cool, like the little, burst he had, and he was pretty good with the Cowboys. But I think we're just finding out that the Cowboys are just a good offense. And if you play running back for the Cowboys, 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns is not guaranteed, but it's very likely. I mean, I don't know how many years now in a row it's been since the Tony Pollard years, after Zeke left. But anyways, he is the most, Rachaad White, just way too inefficient. Even though he continued to get work, he just couldn't really do anything, even when Bucky Irving was injured all that time. Yeah, I think Kenneth Gainwell would be the guy I'd be more interested in.
the Cowboys are a good offense, says the Cowboys fan. No, I'll give it to you. They've been really good this year. Yeah, that's who I thought you were gonna say though. I thought you were gonna say Rico Dowdle. Um, Coming out of the most recency bias. I mean, he's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons where he hasn't really even been the main guy. Like, he was really good in college too. He just really hasn't had that opportunity. So I'd be curious about where Rico Dowdle goes. Like, Kenneth Gainwell just kind of seems like, I get it, he's been good, but I mean, it's also been Arthur Smith. Like, I, I, and Tyler Algier was really good with Arthur Smith too, right? It's like whatever backup running back Arthur Smith has, draft that guy. I mean, if we're being real. So yeah, and I don't really have a whole lot of hope for Rashad White, and he's interesting as far as like PPR goes. If he can find a role where they want to sling it to a running back, but they don't really have that guy. Maybe him and Javante should team up and take over a backfield somewhere. Okay, we have tier 3 here, and injured players here. Ty Chandler, Hassan Haskins, Keaton Mitchell, who's a restricted free agent. And honestly, like these last two guys are probably more interesting than those first three guys, but J.K. Dobbins and Najee Harris. I guess if any of these guys, are you excited about any of them?
No, I mean they're the type of guys that are like on the back end of a dynasty roster somewhere, and maybe coming into next year they sign a nice contract, or all of a sudden wherever if Najee and J.K. Dobbins get some contract somewhere, all of a sudden they're thrust into halfway through the season because of an injury. I have a hard time seeing them with their age, and especially Dobbins with his injury history, like getting a major role somewhere, right? I think Najee Harris was a 1-year contract, so he's completely got right. Like these guys are just completely out there after having pretty serious injuries, so you don't see them, at least starting off the year. So they're kind of just guys at the back end of your dynasty roster that you're like, is this guy going to be cuttable? And you're waiting, and maybe 6 weeks in, J.K. Dobbins has a starting job because of an injury or something. Those are the type of guys I'd rather kind of hold on to than the 6th round wide receiver 7 or 5 or whatever on a team. Like, yes, maybe that guy, but like at least these guys have had NFL production, and a team might trust them at some point in the season, and you get 3 games out of him. Like sometimes these assets, these players don't need to be season long. They don't need to be 5 years down the road. Like sometimes you just need Rico Dowdle in the middle of this season to give you 5 games to put you into the championship, or like put you into a good, a bye week or something like that, or put you into the playoffs themselves. Like sometimes that's all you need, right? Like you don't necessarily always need the guy that's going to be the hidden gem that comes from nothing to be a league winner, right? So I think that's why these are the type of players why dynasty rosters are so deep, and where you maybe can mine some extra value or some extra, wins and points down the road. I don't particularly love any of these guys. I've never really been a big enjoyer of any of these players, but
What? Look at this list of
I know, yeah. I mean,
top
that's
tier
why
talent. Yeah.
they're way down here. But I mean, I know a lot of people that were in on Dobbins, and they really,
Yeah.
hoping that he could do something. And he kind of was looking like that until your boy RJ Harvey finally took the job from him once he got injured. But yeah, man. What about you? You getting all hot and bothered for any of these guys?
I mean, no. I guess if anybody though, it is J.K. Dobbins. I think it kind of makes the most sense for him just to re-sign for the Broncos, because he was so good for the Broncos, and it was really only injury that stopped him, and not a serious, significant enough injury that can take him out of next season. Honestly, for my dynasty RJ Harvey shares, I hope that doesn't happen. But even if he does go somewhere else, he feels like a sneaky ad. Like if you can get him on in the throw-in as some kind of deal. And then beyond that, like kind of interested in Keaton Mitchell. He's had a lot of hype in camp, and from what we have seen from him inside of season games and stuff, it's been pretty good. Limited for the most part, but still he's got some juice. He's really really fast. So to me, that's more interesting than Hassan Haskins or Ty Chandler, or One Eye Najee Harris here. But it is what it is. I don't know. I'm hoping these guys, if they do go anywhere, they go to a good offense, because I feel like, as you were saying, like you're just hoping these guys see the playing field 5 weeks at a time. Outside of like J.K. Dobbins, I would have more hope about J.K. Dobbins seeing the field in a more regular role than any of these other guys.
Yeah, 100%, man.
All right. Yeah, that's all we got for the free agents here, at least running back wise. We're going to be back here with our next segment, or our next podcast, talking about running wide receivers and the free agent market there for them. But thanks for joining us here. And if you are new, stick with us. We are going over content like this all off season. We're going to dive into some rookie content here coming up in February also. So hopefully you guys like us. If you do, drop us a comment. You can follow us on YouTube at Future First Pod. Hit us up. Hey, subscribe, like, touchdown on that like button. Go for 2 on that subscribe. Other than that, Jose, why don't you sign us off here, man?
Yeah, I have no other words. All hail King JMac and his supremacy in fantasy football. And have a good evening, guys.